I rise today to oppose Bill 7, the Water Amendment Act, because this government is trading away public trust, scientific rigor, treaty obligations, and Indigenous stewardship for what it calls efficiency. Our rivers, our wetlands, our headwaters, and generations who depend on them deserve more than a minister's signature and an invisible process. Water is not an industrial input to be shuffled around on a map. Water is life. Water is law. Water is the foundation of culture, of food, of ceremony, of health, and of every single economic system in our province. For Indigenous peoples, water is not a commodity, it is our relative. Late Josephine Mandelman taught us water is alive, quote, I can hear it, I can sense what it's saying. Water is very precious and must be protected, end quote. Late Josephine Mandelman walked around the Great Lakes every single summer. She scooped a bucket of water, sang to that water, and poured it back in the same watershed. She never contaminated or crossed watersheds because she understood and that there was moral clarity and that must guide our decisions about water. Her decisions, combined with Western cumulative effects science, gives us a roadmap for responsible governance, precaution, reciprocity, data, and transparency. Bill 7 has none of that. This government will say Bill 7 makes water more available, but the mechanisms matter. Until now, interbasin transfers required a special act of this legislature, public scrutiny, scientific evidence, democratic oversight. Bill 7 erases all of that. It creates a new category of lower risk transfers and gives the minister the power to approve them. Not in this House, not independent experts, not the public. That is not modernization. It is centralization of power. Bill 7, crucial decisions, including whether a transfer will move contaminants or invasive species, are left to the opinion of a director. Opinions are not science, and science cannot survive behind closed doors. We know from half a century of freshwater science, led by the late Dr. David Schindler and the experimental lakes area that he did, that freshwater systems respond to cumulative stress in non-linear and sometimes irreversible ways. Dr. Schindler proved that small nutrient increases, small flow reductions, small changes in timing, small introductions of invasive species can push a river past a tipping point from which it cannot recover. His peer-reviewed research showed policymakers one core truth: the sum of all small decisions creates catastrophic outcomes. Bill 7 authorizes dozens of small decisions taken privately without public data, without peer review, and without cumulative effects analysis. This is the exact scenario Schindler warned us about. To ignore scholarship is reckless. Mr. Speaker, Alberta's wetlands and northern water stores are not decorations on map. They are living sponges that protect us from drought, from fire, from pollution. We lose wetlands every year. Northern Alberta has most of the province's water. Southern Alberta has most of the demand. Moving water from one basin to another sure makes it easier in the short term, but it depletes resilience over time everywhere. This is not leadership, it is ecological negligence. This bill points to treat industrial water, wastewater use, and rain capture as alternatives, but standards are left to future regulation. This minister can approve transfers before the rules are even written. Albertans deserve to know what is the treatment quality, what monitoring will be required, what contaminants will remain. Bill 7 answers none of that. And then there's the invasive species and contamination risk. Under emergency powers, the government could approve transfers of untreated water between watersheds. That is a biological highway for aquatic pests and industrial contaminants. You don't need a PhD to figure out what that means. Collapsed fisheries, polluted drinking water, and billion-dollar damages for everyone. Now, Mr. Speaker, it also breaches legal and treaty responsibilities that the Crown is required to uphold. The Mackenzie River Basin Agreement governs transboundary water. Alberta cannot unilaterally redefine basins that alternative flow without triggering obligations. Bill 7 jeopardizes this. First Nations leaders across Treaty 6, 7, and 8 have already condemned this bill. Chief Troy Knowlton from the Piikani Nation, the Blackfoot Grand Chief of the Confederacy, said this government is robbing Peter to pay Paul while stripping away accountability and minimizing Indigenous oversights on decisions that impact our people's health, our well-being, and our future. Ogimau Vernon Watchmaker said from the Kihuin Cree Nation from Treaty 6 demanded an immediate stop. Quote, all legislation must uphold our inherent right to govern water in our territories. Water is not a commodity for industrial convenience. It is the lifeblood of every person on this land. End quote. Chief Rupert Manine, Tall Cree Tribal Government, Treaty 8 reminds this House, quote, our rights to hunt, to fish, to trap, and to gather are meaningless without clean, sufficient water. Water given to all of us by the Creator is secured under treaty, end quote. Message undeniable, unmistakable. Bill 7 violates Indigenous jurisdiction, abandons treaty obligations, and was advanced without meaningful consultation, without free, prior, and informed consent. Again, to proceed despite is not reconciliation, it is a breach of trust. Indigenous water protectors like the late Josephine Mandamin and elders have been clear. Co-management, water budgets, and Indigenous-led monitoring are the only long-term strategies that actually work. Indigenous water governance is not a box to check, it is the backbone of sustainability. Mr. Speaker, my colleagues in this House have asked a few simple questions. Why are we changing the boundaries? Where is the data that supports this? Where are the evidence? Where is the peer-reviewed science? Where is the cumulative effect analysis? And the answers so far? None. No public data, no transparency modeling, no consultation, just trust us. It's carelessness and it's masquerading confidence. When I was completing my Master's of Science in Resource Economics, I had the honor of studying under Dr. David Schindler. His work shaped my understanding of water governance. The systems collapse not from one catastrophic decision, but from 1,000 small ones made without humility, without data, and without regard for cumulative harm. Bill 7 is built on exactly that kind of small cascading risk. This government says that Bill 7 is for farmers and rural families, but farmers and rural communities will be the first to suffer when the ecosystems fail, when the wetlands dry, when the invasive species spread, when fisheries collapse, and when the wells run low. Good water policy is made with evidence, notes with anecdotes, not with slogans, not with political impatience. We have been warned by elders, we have been warned by scientists, we have been warned by legal experts, by the treaty chiefs. There will be consequences for reckless decisions made about water. Inherent in treaty rights are not optional, and ecological tipping points do not care about political timelines. This bill is dangerous, and it experiments with the public commons. It gambles with the ecological infrastructure that every Albertan relies on. It shrinks oversight, it disregards science, it ignores treaty rights, and it amplifies cumulative harm. Late Joseph Mandamin's teachings and the decades' work of Dr. Schindler tell us the same things. Be careful, be rigorous, be public, and Bill 7 fails on all three. Hai hai nanaskaman.